Good salut, annyeonghaseyo. This is Ricky from Rikilikemagic, and Shippy says hi, and Shippy says hi. Well, that turned into rockabye baby. Anyway, how are we? I hope we're well. I hope we're well. Sure, that's all you can ask for, really, is that I hope you're well and content and a little bit okay in life, you know? So, topic for today, title for today is Stop Labeling Yourself. But then when I was thinking about this title, at first when I was thinking about this video, I was like, yeah, I fully believe we should stop labeling ourselves. However, the more I dug deep into it, the more I realized that labels are important and labels are good until they are extremely not good and extremely dangerous. So let's talk through my thoughts on that, shall we? The reason why I've been thinking about this video is because I notice this all of the time. I notice this in myself, but I notice it mainly, it frustrates me in other people more so because people try to label me a lot. And rightly so, because that's what humans do. We need to understand each other, so we give each other names and titles and statuses and words. We just give words to each other and put each other in a little box, and that's really important and also extremely dangerous. But I'm coming from the context of me is people tried to label me my whole life because I was really difficult to label, specifically geographically at first. My mum is French, but I was born in Ireland, except I really embrace and love my French side and my French culture because we went there every single summer until I was 17, and I still go whenever I can and have a very close relationship with my French identity. And I've never lived in one place in Ireland longer than 6 or 7 years. And in Ireland, that's a problem because almost everyone you meet in Ireland will ask you where you're from. I never ask anyone where they're from because I hate the question. And I hate it because I have to say this really long-winded thing of like, oh, well, I was born in Dublin, but then I moved to Cork, I lived in Wicklow, and then I lived in Limerick, and now I live in Limerick, but my family is in Dublin. And then I have other family in Australia, and half of my family is in France. But it's very important in Ireland. It's really important in Ireland where you're from. Maybe it's like that in a lot of countries, but I'm not from anywhere. Although recently a woman that I was talking to told me I am from everywhere, which I think is much nicer. It's a much nicer label than I am from nowhere. So my entire life, it's been very difficult for people to put me into a box. So that has taught me to be okay with no box. I have no box. There are some boxes that are very important, and then it gets really dangerous that you keep putting yourself in a box all the time. I think about it a lot because I see it a lot. I see it in my students, I see it in my friends, I see it in myself, most definitely, where you're just telling yourself who you are, and sometimes it doesn't serve you anymore at all. Most of the time, labels don't serve you. I mean, like, examples of good labels. It helps you form identity and move forward with that. So that's good. You need that. A good example of labeling, in my opinion, is I did not come to terms with a very important part of my nature until 2 years ago when I started having really bad panic attacks in college. I have a video all about my mental health if you want to check it. I'll put it in the description box below. But basically, I suddenly started having extremely bad panic attacks, about 3 or 4 full ones a week, and then I would fight off about 10 a day. And at first I was like completely confused and thrown off because that wasn't me. I'd never had these before. Why am I having them? And then I suddenly had to come to terms with the fact that I have anxiety. That was a label I very importantly had to give to myself. I am an anxious person. I have anxiety. It's an acknowledgement. It was a becoming aware of something that was really important to know about myself in order to move forward. So labels and names and words were good in that aspect, in that respect. So I am anxious, I have anxiety, and now that I've labeled that, now that I've pinpointed that, I need to work, I know that, and I can work on that. But then I noticed like a year later, or a year and a half later, when I'd really worked through a lot of my issues, I found I was very uncomfortable with saying that I have anxiety. Oh, it's because I have anxiety. Oh, it's because I'm an anxious person. I find this really difficult because I'm really anxious. I really intuitively knew that that was a really stupid thing to be saying to myself all the time, because if I say that to myself all the time, I'm trapping myself. I'm trapping myself as an anxious person, and that's just going to be my lot in life, and that's going to be just how it is, and then I think it gets very easy to make it an excuse for your life. And I didn't want my anxiety to be so defining of me and to be such a challenge in moving forward with every single day of my life. Now, I technically, you know, I'm a nervous person, but I can't be saying that to myself all the time. So even when I feel thoughts like that happening in my head, it takes much longer to say. But I now say I have a tendency towards getting overwhelmed, or I have a tendency towards anxious thoughts. I find this challenging because I get a little anxious sometimes. It takes a lot longer to say, there's a lot more words in there, but at least it's diffusing the labels I'm giving myself rather than going, oh, I'm really anxious, so I'm going to find that so difficult. Because then you've decided something about yourself. I see it in my students all of the time. It drives me batty, lads. It's so annoying. And I'd say any teacher here, it drives you mad, where your students just go, I can't do it. So I've made it a rule in my class. When you say I can't, you have to say yet at the end, because you have to start somewhere. But why would you say that about yourself? I can't do it. I'm not able to do it. That is a sentence with a full stop and an exclamation point where nothing, you can't get through. Of course you can't get through. So you've just decided that, and that's how it's going to be. It makes me so annoyed. And I do it to myself all the time as well. We do it to ourselves all the time. But it's very, very frustrating when you label yourself with things that aren't going to serve you in your life. They're just not going to help. So why say that about yourself? And the same happened in my dance life. That when I do hip hop for too long, I miss contemporary dance so much. When I do contemporary dance for so long, I miss hip hop a lot. But I'm not a contemporary dancer or a hip hop dancer. I'm a dancer with hip hop training and contemporary training and salsa training. And then I'm Riki. I am whatever comes out because of the wonderful gifts that I've been given in this life. But people try and tell me who I am, and I try and tell myself who I am as well. Like, oh no, I'm a contemporary dancer because of this, this, and this, and I need to know more hip hop. And then, if you see me next to other professionals who have trained in contemporary their entire life, I don't move like them. And then when you see me next to hip hop dancers, I don't move like them. I move like me. And I think that's why I'm making this video, is because you can't control what the labels people say to you are. You can't control the things that people are going to tell you who you are. So you gotta sort out the labels that you have for yourself. You have to. It's really important, because then people can tell you all the stuff that they want to tell you about you, and you're like, okay, because you know who you are. It doesn't freak you out as much. There was this really cool story. I took a day workshop with an amazing dancer, Brian Green. If you are a dancer, you probably know who he is. If you're not, he is a dance genius. One thing that really stuck with me was he was asked to do several workshops, one after the other, by different people. And he was asked to do a house workshop because he's a house dancer. And then he did this house workshop and everyone called him a house dancer. And then he got annoyed by that. And the next workshop he taught whacking, and he was absolutely incredible at whacking. And people were like, oh, I didn't know you were a whacking dancer. Okay, you're a whacking dancer. I'll give you this workshop. And then he was like, I can also do this, 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 and this. And he did all these different styles and all these different workshops, and kept proving people wrong about who he is or not, and kept confusing people and frustrating people and irritating people because people couldn't put him in a box. And he calls himself just a dancer, not a specific type of dancer. Because what is the point? Who does that serve? Why? Why do you need? Why do you need it? I've never understood it. But that's probably because I've had very little labels my whole life, because I couldn't even pin myself down. I like too many things, and then all of the things that I like inform me in a unique way that's extremely difficult to label. And it's the same with most people, so I don't understand why people keep trying to label themselves. So for example, personality wise for me, I have been called cute my entire life. And listen, I know that's a default. That's a very intrinsic part of my personality, and I hold that with pride. And cute is easy for me to do, you know? It's fun, and it's really a part of my personality. But it was getting to the point in my life where I was really starting to lean into that, and I was starting to behave because people expected that, rather than behaving in a way that was healthy for me in and of each moment that I needed to be what I needed to be. So cute and sweet are definitely major parts of me, But on the other side of it, I'm an extremely serious person off camera, when I'm alone, when I'm with friends who I trust, or with family. I'm very, very serious, and all of the stuff that I make and the things that I do wouldn't come if I wasn't extremely serious about what I did. I don't take myself seriously. Maybe that's why I'm silly and I love being silly, and I think a sense of humor is really important. But I take what I do really seriously. I take my work extremely seriously, and I'm a very serious person in some respects. So people can label me cute, but I cannot label myself cute and silly. That can't be the one thing that I reside in, because that just doesn't serve me in my life. Similarly, I am also very talkative and hyper, and this is a personality trait that I am labeled by, which is very true and valid because I talk a lot. And I love talking, and talking is class. But I adore silence. And I need alone time. Sometimes I hate people. Sometimes I need to be by myself to recover. And in fact, I'm actually extremely introverted in some respects of my life. But even my closest friends didn't know that about me until I really started to talk about what I needed and who I was, when I started realizing who I was and what I needed in my life. So I think I'm trying to say that, like, we're all extremely fluid. Our identities are so fluid. So I don't understand why you would label yourself and keep that for your whole life. I don't get it. Because nothing is permanent in this life. Nothing is permanent in this life. So I'm going to change, and I need to know that about myself. I need to hold that knowledge so that I don't go nuts, and I don't get lost, or I don't get depressed, or I don't get stuck. Or I don't make excuses. People love the victim label. They love the victim label. Sure, we all love the victim label, because if you're like, well, all of this happened to me and I'm the victim here, then you don't have to do anything. You know, it's not your responsibility anymore. And nobody likes responsibility. There's a lot of dangers in labeling yourself, and I've been thinking about that a lot, and I just wanted to say that out loud. Labels are extremely important, but you gotta pick them. You gotta pick the good ones that serve you, and they may only serve you for like a day. You go into that meeting and you're like, I am the boss. And that's a label that you need to chuck then that night when you're with your family or your friends or your housemate, you know? Or for like your whole life, I want to be brave. I am brave. Even if you don't feel brave, you can also lie to yourself with labels, I think. And then that helps as well. I am brave. I can do this. I can do this. Even if you really believe that you can't. I am brave. That's a label. So yeah, be careful with that, because words are extremely strong, but they also need to be taken really lightly and chucked when they don't work anymore, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. So yeah, let me know what you think about that in the comments. Let me know what labels you would like to give yourself that would really help you and serve you. Let me know what labels you'd like to let go of. I'll share that as well. I'll be vulnerable with you too. A label I would like to let go of is anxious. I'd like to let go of I'm an anxious person, because sometimes I think that about myself and I don't think that helps me. And a label I would like to give myself more is kick-ass. I am kick-ass. Thank you so much for watching, lovely humans. If you enjoyed this video, you can like, you can subscribe, you can ring the little bell that gives you all the notifications, you can share it with your friends, and you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Snapchat. Remember, you are who you choose to be, and you are part of something bigger and deeper than yourself. And Shabby says bye.